But there were times where it's like, okay, there's extra, we're on a sidewalk, there's extras moving here, there's extras moving here, and I'm supposed to run down the middle of these extras, these poor extras. And I was like, said one, you need to make sure that these extras understand. If I'm coming towards them, I will not stop. If it looks like I'm going to hit them, they need to jump out of the way because I will not stop and I cannot see them. He's like, oh yeah, I'll make sure. I'm like, no. You need to, seriously, like, I will hit them. Some of these extras are seniors. Like, we can't have that kind of,
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger.
And Cameron Garrity.
And today we have the wonderful Ingrid Hansen on the show. Welcome to the show, Ingrid.
Woohoo!
Woo! She made it! Finally!
Yeah, we made it happen, you guys.
Yes. Well, Ingrid, for anybody who doesn't know, is the wonderful character performer behind Heart on Apple TV Plus's The Helpsters. She's also a great stage performer. She has an act called the Merkin Sisters. She also has done some series work up in Canada where she's from. Things like Tiga Talk, Tick and Skeeter, Miss Persona. My favorite title ever that I've ever read on the show,
yes!
Princess Sparkly Butt and the Hot Dog Kid, and Kitten Jane. So Ingrid Hansen, it is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining us on Puppeteers.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. I was listening to your podcast last summer when I was working in New York for the first time, working on Helpsters, and I would take the train into work every day for about like half an hour, 45 minutes, and I'd listen to your podcast because I discovered it, and I was like, oh, I'm listening to a podcast by Marty Robinson.
It's so weird to hear that.
Marty Robinson. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Of course.
This
the one
Jim
with the
Krupa
worst
guy
audio.
seems like a weirdo.
He's the best weirdo. Yeah.
He is, yes.
Yeah.
We love him.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear that people actually listen to it because so much we kind of sit in these little rooms and record it and put it out into the world, and it's just it's always nice to hear that.
I know it's kind of weird.
Hey,
I feel the same about social media. Well, I'll post videos on Instagram, and then someone will say, "I saw you that you were doing blah." I'm like, "How did you know? Who told you?" They're like, "You put it on the internet." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did." Oh yeah.
Exactly. So, but what are you working on right now?
I'm in Canada. I'm working on a new show that's it's gonna live stream on Thursday, May 14th on Facebook as part of, so it's a show my company SNAFU is working on. We're gonna do like a work in progress performance. And it's part of the Canada's National Arts Centre is doing a thing called #Canada Perform. Hashtag Canada Performs. And so it's called Epidermis Circus. And it's a lot of like really up close to the camera puppetry that for the stage version, it'll be projected onto a screen behind me to magnify it. So it's a lot of really surreal, personal puppetry. Like some of it's just all weird illusions with my face and mirrors and makeup and just hands and the kind of like, it's gonna be fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see that. That's really cool.
It's gonna be pretty creepy, I think.
Yeah. Now, is that sort of in keeping with some of the kind of work that you guys would normally do, or is this kind of like understanding the confines of what the situation everybody's in right now?
It was quite serendipitous. I was already working on that piece when quarantine hit, so yeah. Lucky me, I was working on a solo show during this time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we're writing a cartoon with a friend of mine that we just pitched to Canada's national network, to CBC. And CBC just put out submissions for plays to adapt them to TV shows. So we submitted a pitch for that too.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
That's super cool.
But I was in Toronto working on Miss Persona when this whole quarantine thing happened. So we were midway through, I think they're calling it season 3. And I was doing a really a glove puppet built by Andy Hayward as a new character on this fun show.
I've seen that bear before because Andy's done, I know he spends shop time at times with Ronnie Burkett. And I've seen those bears. They look like so much fun to perform and get your hands in.
Yeah, Mike Peterson does the Brandon Bear, and then I was playing a dog, a new character who's this hyperactive dog, the foil for the more shy character on the show, which is perfect typecasting. I was the hyperactive, annoying one, as you can imagine. Yeah, so it was fun. Actually, I was building my own bum roller, like my own rolling floor chair for that show. That was fun. Ordering wheels on the internet and attaching my rollerblade wheels and trying to make.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Custom rolly chair.
That's the best. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that the Helpsters just dropped some new episodes recently, which was like super fun because I, way out of the age demo for that, but I still really love watching.
No.
When
He's
you
not
guys were
mentally,
all
though.
hula hooping in one of the episodes, it just it made my day, because when it came out, I think we were like a week or two in to stay at home, and it was just like, oh, I needed that.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so proud of that show. I can't wait for the rest of the episodes to come out. It was such a crazy, wild dream working on that. I was the only interloper, right? Like all these puppeteers have worked together, some of them for 30 years. And here I come in as this like weird interloper from Canada. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to make a puppet show too. And everyone was so lovely. Like it could have been the opposite, right? Where it's like, hey, we're the in club and who are you? This weird new person. But all the puppeteers, everybody in the whole team was so welcoming and so kind, and we just like hit the ground running, and there we went. So,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, and the writing on that show was
that's great.
so like kind of remarkably weird. Tim McKeown, who's the creator, was written for some of my favorite cartoons like Gravity Falls, and he's written for some episodes I think of Adventure Time, and so. It was like all the writing, all the jokes, all the characters were so strange and so fun and so fast. And yeah, I got a lot of stories to tell you about that show.
Oh, well, we can't wait to hear them, but maybe that's a good place to start off for now. How did this show start to happen for you? Did you hear about auditions or?
Oh
what was
yeah,
that
I didn't
process
tell you
like?
that story yet, did I? It's a weird one. So, okay, I was touring with this Canadian physical theater company called Corpus Theatre. They tour all over the world with this sheep show. So they have 6 dancers in these sheep costumes with, your face is sticking out and you're basically in this like big puffy white like pillowy fat suit with little sheep paws. And the 6 dancers really realistically behave like a sheep for half an hour. And the audience will come up to the fence and like hand feed you lettuce and you eat out of their hands. It's a commentary, social commentary. They perform it in like malls, in art galleries. We toured with to Japan and performed in Tokyo. And so we were doing that show at the Wool and Sheep Festival in upstate New York. And I'd worked on lots of Canadian TV puppet shows, but never even thought about submitting to Sesame. Never even thought about working in America. Like I just didn't never really think it was possible, or I don't know. And so I was on my break from doing the sheep show at the Wool and Sheep Festival, which is basically like a festival of like sheep farmers and knitting enthusiasts. And
Wow, I thought puppetry was a niche market.
No, this is like, oh man, those people love to knit, right? This like, it's all just sheep people. And I was on my lunch break, and there was no free picnic tables. So I see one picnic table has this random stranger sitting at it. I said, oh, hey, can I sit with you? He's like, yeah, sure. So I sat down, I'm eating my hot dog, and I'm like, what do you do? Why are you at the sheep festival? Are you a sheep farmer? Because I have to talk to everybody, because that's like, I always do.
Sure.
And I'm like, you a sheep farmer? Why are you here? He's like, no, I'm a puppeteer. I was like, no way, I'm a puppeteer. He's like, I'm like, what do you puppeteer on? He's like, oh, he's like, just like Sesame Street. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, and like the Muppets. I'm like, who do you play? And he's like, well, little like Orange. He's so like kind and like so modest. He's like, the little orange guy named in the new movies. I'm like, you mean Walter, the star of the new movies? He's like, yeah, well, I play Walter and I play Ernie, and it was Peter Lenz, who I'm sure you've had on the show. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I told him I had TV experience because I've been working on these TV shows in Canada. He said, oh, you should you should send me your demo because we do these training workshops at Sesame sometimes for people with TV experience, and maybe you could come and do one. So I madly went home that night. I was freaking out to all the other dancers in the sheep show. I was like, oh, I have to make a video demo. So I put together a video demo and sent it in. And months later, I got to do a training workshop with Sesame, and then didn't really think anything of it. It was like dream achieved, and then maybe a year later, I got a random email from Sesame inviting me to audition for Helpsters. Yeah.
Wow. What year was that workshop?
I think maybe 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
wow, that's amazing.
That's so wild. And what kind of weird serendipity. I know you said upstate New York, but do you remember whereabouts? Sorry, because we're from Buffalo, which is Western New York. So I know from New York City, everything is upstate New York, but I was curious if you were anywhere near us.
Oh my gosh. Start with an A.
If you don't remember.
City? I don't remember. I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember.
No, that's
when I travel
fine.
and I'm not driving, I don't know where anything is. I don't pay attention.
Yeah.
I get on the bus.
That's how I am too.
Yeah.
No, totally. Same.
Yeah. I spend that time just living inside my brain and my thoughts. But anyway, one thing I was wondering or thinking about that made me think of is, that's the way I feel like a lot of people had that kind of experience where they audition for something, and when you don't hear anything for the first couple of weeks or month, you kind of feel like, okay, well, that was fun, that it's over. But it's so reassuring to hear that after so much time can go by that there can still potentially be an opportunity, because I think so many people give up hope so early, and some people even post about it, which is a good reason maybe not to for them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, being a performer is, if you're not making your own work, mostly I make my own work, which is so nice because I'm the one who gets to decide what I make and don't make and what jobs I have and don't have. And, I'm not beholden to somebody else to say, here, you can work now, right? But auditioning, it's like the business of rejection. You have to have a really thick skin, and you have to kind of treat it like playing the lottery or like playing bingo or something, where you go and you do your audition and you're like, cool, I threw my name in the bucket. I'm done now. Go about my day. Yeah, I was so nervous.
That's a really great philosophy to have. I was going to say, that's a really great philosophy. I'm sorry. That's a very great philosophy to have with that type of that kind of mentality when auditioning for things, because so many people do take it so personally. And sometimes, and even, and sometimes people don't even realize how close they were and how much maybe the production company actually wanted them. But at the end of the day, for a lot of these things, you can only choose one person, and it's probably hard for them too, knowing that they have to break so many hearts. So, it can be, especially for those people in those positions, it can be very, feel very thankless sometimes. Yeah,
and I mean, you're just one tiny piece of the puzzle, right? And they have so many variables they're working with and matching up this with this and all these different requirements. The other thing I learned years ago is I used to get bad nervous for auditions, where I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then I realized that if I just thought about it differently, I thought about my audition as like, I'm going to go do my little 5-minute one-man show, right? That I wasn't going to do an audition. I was going to do a performance. And so I was, I prepared my performance, and then I could like conjure that excitement that I have when I'm going to perform a live show, as opposed to the nerves I would have going to audition and be judged. It's like, no, I'm just going to perform for my audience of 5 people. I'm going to do my 5-minute or my 1 minute, one woman show. And then I can kind of like trick myself into enjoying it.
No, that's such a great mindset, because otherwise you go in with your sides and you're thinking, how do I do this line or that line or whatever better than, the other 15 people, in this hallway who are also applying for the thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just, totally own it. And I love that mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard to get out of your own head, though, too, because, like, on one side, I feel like I'm often a pep talk person for people. Like, oh, man, there's nothing to worry about. You just got to go in there. Don't be nervous. Just be yourself. And then when you're in that position, you're like,
I know.
Oh, my gosh, I'm so nervous. And the other thing is, too, to remember, most of the time, the people, the director or whoever it is, they're
absolutely.
They want you to do amazing because it makes their job easier.
Same with a live audience, right? Like I do all this work. We do this, my company and a bunch of artists I work with, we do these shows at a prison in Victoria. So it's a men's prison. The men create and perform a show for a public audience. And they're so nervous coming up to opening night, right? And I like to tell the guys, it's like the audience is already on your side, right? They like, think about it. Like nobody ever buys a ticket to a movie thinking like, hope this movie sucks, and then goes to sit down in the movie theater. Like you never do that. You buy a ticket to a show and you sit there and you're like, oh, I can't wait. Like, I hope it's amazing. I just want to love it, right? And when you're performing on stage in front of a group of strangers, it's totally the same thing. Like they already want to love you. You just have to let them. Like they're there. They want you to take them away on a journey. They're ready, they're already on your side. Nobody's going to the play and being like, bet this is going to be garbage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
100%. Unless it's Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark or something.
Yeah, well, then that would be delicious. Delicious garbage.
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, gosh.
So tell us about your Helpsters audition.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, all I wanted to tell you is that I was so nervous the night before, as I flew into New York and I was staying at like an Airbnb or something. And no, I was staying with a friend and I was so nervous. I did not sleep. I don't know how I functioned to do the audition. I like hovered 2 inches above the mattress all night long. I was just so excited. I was so excited. I've never done that in my life. I've never just like, other than one time when I decided to drink affogatos, like espresso and ice cream right before bed. I did that once, and then I went to the audition. I was so jacked up. I was hiding in a room before the audition trying to like do child's pose, like just like lie with my face close to the floor and breathe. And I was so excited. And then afterwards, it was such an adrenaline rush that, luckily the audition was early in the day because otherwise I would have died. And then by like 11 a.m., I was done the audition. I was out in the street in Manhattan and I would just crashed. And one of the other puppeteers, I think it was David Bizarro, who I just met, was like, hey, you want to get a beer? Or do you want to get something to eat or something? Like, and just talk about what happened? So we went and had something to eat. And, 20 minutes into that meal, I just crashed because I was on such an adrenaline high going into that audition. And then, just like I became a total zombie. I was like, I can't go home, David. I'm not a person.
Yeah, no, it's amazing too. Like, I imagine, if there's anything like my experiences when going for an interview or something too, like you can't even eat. Like one time I had an interview like at like 2:00 in the afternoon, and I was like, I just couldn't eat all day because I was like getting nervous for it and stuff. And then after that, like 20-minute interview, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to eat everything right now. And then also just being. Having all that energy and it just knocks you out.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wanted to tell you guys a story about this is puppeteers, right? That was Jim Krupa's name choice.
Mm-hmm.
I have some stories of stupid and lovely and amazing mistakes I've made on set. I'd love to tell you a few of those.
Oh, yeah, we love those.
What did I do? Okay, so there was one time I was working on a show where I was the puppet design was new to me, and I was figuring out like how the heck to use this walk around creature and get used to like the mechanics of its face and how to make that particular puppet's mask emote on camera and stuff. So another puppeteer was like, hey, you should just anytime that the camera's rolling and they haven't said action yet, just mess around on camera and just like, get to know the puppet. I was like, yeah, that's what I need to do. So I was in this shot where I was supposed to say one line and then walk down the street out of frame. It was it. It was like so simple. And so I was getting ready and they're like, okay, here we go, we're gonna roll. But the director and the video village and everything was like way down the street, so I couldn't hear them very well. And I heard them say, okay, we're gonna slate. They slated. And then they said something like, oh, I heard somebody say, like second sticks, which means like they need to slate again, right? So I was waiting for them to come and slate again because I've heard them say second sticks. And I was like, I know what that means. That means they need to slate again. So as I was waiting, I was like, I'm going to take that advice and mess around on camera. So I started messing around and I was like, like messing around, saying, like talking total nonsense, like petting my own fur as the puppet and like just playing like googly eyes, like smoochy to the camera and all this kind of stuff. And then just kept going, waiting for them. Like, oh, they must have really messed up the slate. I kept going. And finally I heard the director show from down the street. It's like, are you gonna go? So, because I had heard them say second sticks, and then somebody else said, oh no, we don't need second sticks. Just go ahead, we'll tail slate it. I didn't hear that because I'm inside this walk around. I can't hear anything. Because it's like wearing a big foam, installation booth. And so I was messing around in front of the camera, like while they were rolling for like 2.5 minutes solid of just like stupid nonsense gibberish, and the poor director's waiting for me to say my line and walk out of frame just to get this one. Oh, so funny. So funny.
That's hysterical. Is that footage exist anywhere?
I don't think so.
Oh, geez.
No.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, there's another time.
So
yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask, like, what's oh my gosh. Can you kind of share your philosophy? Because it sounds like you've had a lot of experience inside walk around characters, which is like, I'm always in awe of that kind of thing. But usually, if you're on a show, there's usually only like one of those if you're lucky. So can you talk about like just that experience in general, of being inside, and just what you have to do and how you have to prepare differently than if you were just like wiggling a dolly on your hand?
Yeah. It's, I mean, sometimes it's very, very different and very the same. The main difference is you rely so much on your wrangler to keep you safe. And I had the best wrangler in the history of existence, who you should totally interview on this podcast. His name's Sedwan Hooks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
He's slated to be on.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yes.
He's incredible. I didn't know Sedwan before working on Helpsters, and first day I came in and they're like, Sedwan's gonna be wrangling for you, and I was just looked at him, he looked at me, and we were like, yeah, okay, here we go. And it was like best buds instantly. And some people actually thought on set, they were like, were you hired to get, like, are you hired as a unit? I'm like, no, we just met today. We just like, but your wrangler, like, he's the reason I didn't die doing a 6-month shoot, 12 hours a day, and he's like, not only making sure you don't, but for anyone who doesn't, who's listening to all this and who's like, what's a wrangler? Like, a wrangler with regular puppets, you guys know, but the wrangler is like the hair and wardrobe and makeup and special effects department for the puppet. So they're dressing the puppets, they're rigging the puppets, they're rigging props into the puppets' hands. If they don't have moving hands, they're making sure that its eyes and its fur and everything is clean and in place right before they call action. And when it's a walk around, they're making sure you don't walk into traffic or get heat exhaustion, or making sure you can hear what the director's saying, or that the director knows if you can't hear them, or
except for that one time. Right?
Well, that was early on in that particular show before we realized that I needed an IFB, like an earbud, so that I could hear the director's voice. But yeah, so it's like, I never get claustrophobic in walk-arounds, so I'm lucky with that. I kind of love, like, nobody can see you, so you can be you're in your monster and nobody can see what you're doing in there. So, it kind of feels like you're in your own little room, and so I'd be like sitting there singing to myself and forget that, the whole studio is listening to you on microphone. Just like, having a great time. I call it my big orange house. I loved it. I miss my big orange house a lot.
Speaking of what is it like in there? Because that one, it looks wider than most walk around characters that I've seen in the past. And actually, start off with about how tall is it when you're inside?
I am
of it?
so big. This is what you have to understand. I am so big. Like it's like I'm like
and top
I am
heavy.
the size of a fridge. Like maybe bigger.
Oh,
so
fridge.
yeah, huge circumference, really like the size of a fridge. It looks like I couldn't fit through normal doors. Yeah. And then the head, I'm like 5'5", so the head was maybe 6 feet tall. When I'm inside of it, walking around. Luckily, a lot of the shoot if they're shooting from the waist up, you don't have to wear the pants, so you have more air ventilation moving through.
And that mouth plate is, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that mouth plate is so wide though. You're not operating it like this, are you?
Yes.
Or is there? Oh really? It's that wide? Wow, that's a lot of leverage.
Big, yes. Yeah, I got a lot of meat on this thumb muscle after that summer. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and then of course there's like a Jim Krupa designed iMech in there, and Lara McLean was doing the eyes, so I got to work with Lara McLean all summer. She's the best human being in the world. And she's so good. Oh my gosh, she would listen to me breathe and use that to be able to anticipate what I was gonna do. And poor Laura, I never did the same thing twice ever. Like I was just like, I'm of the like Marty Robinson school of thought, where it's like go big, go bold, make it weird, do it different every time. But yeah, Lars was doing Heart's Eyes.
Yeah. So she's kind of got that market corner now for animating small features of big puppets like that. That's pretty cool. Another thing I'm thinking too is that again, the head is so big, and your hand isn't like with Bear from Bear in the Big Blue House and Big Bird. The puppeteer's hand is also supporting the weight of the whole head. Is your hand supporting the weight as well, or is it built off of some sort of harness?
It's really nice. The weight's actually attached to the backpack rig, so it's a combo, but there's a lot of support from the structure. I don't know how much of these secrets I'm allowed to tell. I don't think it matters. But yeah, that was really, really nice. And I actually sometimes would switch and go lefty, especially if I wanted to use my right hand in a shot or just for certain weird angles and stuff. But
Right.
That's cool. Are you able to potentially switch in the middle of a shot, or would it have to be a new shot?
I did. I would. It's not the best. But I could do that a little bit. It was pretty fun. I love because there was times when I'd be in the full body costume, full body puppet, full body walk around, and we couldn't have a right hand assist because Kathy Kim was doing my right hand, so she's hiding her whole body behind my big orange furriness, putting her arm through the armpit slit, and then animating the right hand. And certain scenes, if I was doing turning, or there was some places where Hart loves to dance, and so there's some times where I'd have my left hand in the sleeve and right arm in the head, and then I'd switch and animate the right arm to do some like stretching, ballet, different things. One time I even I wanted Hart to go on tiptoe, and we were doing close-up shot of just the toes, so I gripped the waist of the pants in my teeth and put my hands in the feet and the shoes of the puppet. And then I hid my whole body. I went on tiptoe to hide my legs behind the puppet's legs. So if you can imagine like little tiptoe legs of the puppet and then my actual legs tiptoeing behind that. And I made Hart do little what are they called? Bourrées? Little ballet tippy-tippies. Yeah. So, yeah. You invent.
That's crazy. And it seems like that's maybe your background as a dancer and as a physical performer would maybe give you those kinds of insights that I don't want to say normal puppeteer because there's no such thing, but like your run-of-the-mill performer. But that it wouldn't necessarily be an instinct to someone who's doesn't have that. I got to do some choreography on
a couple music videos on Helpsters. Got a big hat. I got to do some choreography with some of the stars. That was really fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Is there a certain amount of time that you're able to
Not
be in that
officially,
thing at a time?
but said one was my really great about popping me out of there whenever I didn't need to be in there. Because the thing is I wouldn't really overheat, and because I'm lucky I'm not a super sweaty person, and except for some of the days in like August, fry an egg on the sidewalk outside New York City streets. That was pretty cool, pretty intense. But I didn't get too hot. I didn't overheat, but you just lose oxygen if you're in for too long, and you don't. I'm not gonna pass out or anything, but your brain just starts to get kind of dumb, and then then you can't remember your lines, and then you kind of just become a useless lump. So it's really I wouldn't stay in for more than 10 or 20 minutes.
Do you use the Carol Spinney method with a bunch of your lines inside of
I memorized
written
it.
inside of the costume?
But, I mean, Hart didn't really have a lot of soliloquies or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And would you also be able to do a couple rehearsals first outside of the without the whole costume?
But they build a cardboard face for Hart for rehearsals, and I'd wear a chest monitor, and rehearse like that. Yeah. Sometimes, but it's kind of sometimes that kind of rehearsal, because Hart's so girthy, it was a little bit like you kind of just have to rehearse in the suit.
Totally. Yeah, no, I definitely get that, especially because some people don't necessarily realize it, but having the puppet on really allows you to channel the character. And I think even sometimes you'll hear a music recording for a Sesame album or something. It's why do the characters sound slightly different? And it's there's just there's an authenticity that you get when you're actually connected with the thing.
I always like to say I think there's a bit of witchcraft in puppetry, where you're kind of summoning or channeling this character to come to life. It doesn't necessarily come from you; it comes through you. Creepy.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So when we could talk more about Helpsters later on, but when did that first attraction happen for you, or when did you first kind of discover that puppetry was something that you wanted to explore and find those creative avenues?
I think like a lot of people, as a kid, my older brother was really into puppetry, and he would make the voices of my food as I was eating it. He'd make the voice every time I chomped down. He would make screams as if my food was dying. And he somehow got a hold of our grandma's old VHS camcorder, we made puppet videos as kids. We made a Bat, Bear, and Robin instead of Batman and Robin. The stars were teddy bears, and we made cardboard box sets, and it was totally ludicrous and didn't really make a lot of sense at all. But I don't think I ever thought puppetry. I don't think I really knew that it could be a career. And I studied acting in university, and then when I graduated, or maybe before I graduated, I would always go through all of the audition postings and all the workshop postings, and I saw one that there was an audition for a kids TV show for puppeteers or people who wanted to train to be puppeteers, and part of the audition was an audition workshop with Tim Gosley, who's this absolutely amazing Canadian puppeteer, and he's done lots of trippy shadow puppetry, and he worked with Merpt for a long time, but he also was on Fraggle Rock, and he played Basil the Bear for many years on Sesame Park, when there was a Canadian specific Sesame show. And so I saw an audition call with a workshop with Tim Gosley, and I was like, heck, I'm never gonna get this job. I want to meet this guy. So I went to the audition, and I met Tim, and I ended up getting the part, and he boot camp trained us. So that was my first job, was on camera playing a lead puppet character for what ended up being 4 seasons of a TV show. That was Tiga Talk. So it was broadcast on APTN, which is Canada's national Aboriginal People's Television Network. And I played this beautiful, weird little gopher hand. It was a hand puppet, a rod puppet, and
she talked like this, and she was always very busy and running around, and she loved to play dress up, and she was very, very kind of fancy, but also she would dress up with mustaches sometimes, and top hats and different kinds of things, and
my whole goal with that puppet was, I was like, season 1, I was like, okay, I'm learning the ropes. Season 2, I was like, I'm gonna see how weird I can make her before they pull me back, before they tell me like, that's too weird, Ingrid. You need to just like calm down a little. And season 3, season 4, like she just kept getting more her eclectic self and weirder and weirder, and they never told me to pull it back. So I had so much fun on that show. She just like, she was a very melodramatic little gopher.
No, that's always the best when you have that freedom. And I was watching your reel before we got started today, and there was a moment where I think she was on a clothesline and she came out from like inside a dress shirt and said, "I'm a kneecap," and I just lost it.
I wrote that line.
It was so like weird and specific, and it was just
yeah.
I love that.
That was my favorite thing, is when you're working on a show and the writers or the directors will let you add those little isms and like improvise little lines, or on Helpsters, the writing team was so amazing. We had one of the head writers on set with us every single day, and so sometimes we could say, oh, I have an idea, like what do you think of this, and pitch them something. And so, but more often than not, if we could fit it in, they were like, yes, that's amazing. Like all that specificity is so tasty. And I love when this is like such a great feeling when you make up some stupid joke and it makes it into the show, it makes the edit, and you're like, yes, my stupid joke. Yeah.
And you don't know at that point if it's made until the world knows,
you have
right?
no idea. And yeah. The little victories, the stupid things that make me laugh, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. I know we're jumping around here a little bit, but that just got me thinking. So do you watch yourself or your characters when the final product comes
you have
out?
to. You have to, even if you cringe and want to kill yourself, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
You have to, yeah.
No, I ask because I know some people who don't, like, they just want to remain separate from it. And I'd love to hear your,
I think you're always, you're always going to cringe because it's going to always be better, right? So you can always find things and go, oh gosh, the eye line, the lip sync, the whatever it is, but you have to watch it. My gosh, you learn so much about the show as a whole too, because when you're making it, you're so focused on your little part of the whole thing, and you have to watch it later and get a perspective of how it all fits together and the rhythm of the editing and the pacing, and you can learn so much. But yeah, of course you can watch and go, oh god, that part, oh god, I could have done that better. Yeah.
That's a good point, though, too, because it's not like you're joining Sesame Street that's been running for 50 years or the Muppets that's been around forever, too. Like, this is, you have to get to know that whole world. Was that a tough thing in the beginning to grasp exactly what it was, since it was something brand new?
I think the writing was so strong, and so that all seemed like the world was so complete from the get-go, but of course the world developed too as the season went along, because they were still writing the episodes as we were shooting, and all this, like, mythology that gets kind of swirled into it. And I love working on a new show. Getting to create a new character is just the best, because you get to help invent all of their isms. Like it's up to you to bring it. I had a director I worked with once who, when I was in theater school, and she said on the very first day of rehearsing this big project, she's like, okay, I'm the director, I'm bringing half of it here in terms of ideas and content and style. You have to bring the other half. Like you gotta bring it. You gotta come fueled with ideas and specific choices of how do they wave, how do they laugh, what are they really afraid of? If it's not in the writing, you got to make it up, and that's the best part. I love like to sometimes when I'm working at creating a new character, I like to sit in a space and look at the actual room around me through that character's eyes and talk about the space, like talk about what I see and what I think about everything, and just try to like move through the world looking at the world through their eyes. You know, like, oh, those curtains are hideous. Oh, who put those there? Those are terrible. You know, whatever it is, whatever's around you. Yeah.
No, I love that. Yeah, something something that I do when I prepare for a character is put an hour-long mixtape together that I just have on repeat, and when I'm on set, but like on a break, that's the thing that I just like listen to and try to close myself into, because it kind of helps feed the character and create like, well, what are the songs that would get stuck in their head? But I love that approach too, of just like, seeing the world through the character's eyes. And I would surmise, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like even when you like weren't performing Heart, but you know, on your off days or whatever, as you're still trying to get to know that character, you know, doing that when you're on the subway or in your apartment, and just like, how do I more get into his head, or how does he get into my head type thing?
Yeah, it's so much fun. I think it's the best when you get to, and then there's something like you were saying, like when you put the actual puppet on, so much of the puppet's mask and the puppet's shape and its features tell you about who it wants to be. You can have an idea about who they are, but once you put that puppet on, there's like some weird like voodoo something that happens, and its personality just comes out of you, you know?
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's so cool too. But I imagine it's especially kind of different with a costume character, because obviously with a puppet, when you have it like this, and of course you're looking at a monitor, but still, you know, you get to see in a kind of the same type of vision that the puppet can see peripherally. Or you don't have any sight out besides what the camera sees on the monitor.
There's no mesh. There's no sneaky peeky holes. Yeah. There's nothing. So you are so reliant on that camera. And if they're shooting somebody else, you can't see anything. You know, if it's a close up on Mr. Prim, I don't, all I see is Mr. Prim, you know? So it's a trip, and it's I learned we had to do some running outside, you know, and even just like running in a straight line when you can't see anything, it can be a challenge. So I would lift up the neck flap so I could peek before the shot, and so I could lift up the neck flap and look out into the world before we started the shot, and I would like set my sight on where I was going, and then I'd flop it back down and keep that picture in my mind's eye so I could see, I'm going to that tree, or I'm going to that mailbox, or whatever it is. And then I could keep that spacing in my mind's eye as I ran towards it. But there were times where I was like, okay, you know, there's extra, we're on a sidewalk, there's extras moving here, there's extras moving here, and I'm supposed to run down the middle of these extras, these poor extras. And I'm just like, I just like said, you need to make sure that these extras understand, if I'm coming towards them, I will not stop. If it looks like I'm going to hit them, they need to jump out of the way, because I will not stop and I cannot see them. He's like, oh yeah, I'll make sure. I'm like, no. You need to, seriously, like, I will hit them. Some of these extras are seniors. Like, we can't have that kind of, you know? No, not that nobody ever got hurt.
No, but that just goes to show you though, like how, you know, I don't want to, like how dangerous puppetry could potentially end up being is just so wild to think about, because, you know, it's, I don't know, that's just, it's a crazy thing to think of the juxtaposition between like what a beautiful, wonderful project that Helpsters ends up being. And you think about like, just there's no getting around that those potential hazards when you're doing characters like that is, crazy.
Oh yeah. And when you're working with a director who hasn't worked with walkarounds before, I had to make sure, because we got to work with a lot of amazing directors, and you know, you have to go up to them before we start shooting and say, okay, so if you're coming to give Heart notes, or if you're coming to give any walk-around character notes, you're coming to give this walk-around notes, you have to come up and you have to say, hello, Ingrid, loudly, so that I know you're talking to me. And because you know, they'll come up and they'll say, oh, when you go do this, can you move over there and you move over there? And you're like, I can't see any of the pointing. Who's you? Like, who are you talking about? I can't see anything. So it causes you to have to be more specific about your communication for sure. I did another creature on your favorite titled show, Princess Sparkly Butt and the Hot Dog Kid. And that one was, I was like this moon monster. So I had, face prosthetics and lizard eye contacts and this big lumpy kind of like fur scrap, hideous moon suit, like moon monster costume. And that one was like, I had no problem seeing in that one, but there was some fun times on that show where I was playing both this full body creature and also puppeteering a robot bear. So sometimes there wasn't time to change from one into the other. So there's some behind the scenes shots of me with half of the creature suit peeled off of me, wearing like a crop top and then half of a creature suit and this like fangs glued to my face and lizard eye contacts, holding this robot bear puppet and like crouched over a monitor trying to puppeteer.
I've seen those pictures on your Facebook page, and that's absolutely like hysterical. But no, that's what we do. And you're certainly not going to come out of those prosthetics, because I'm sure, a scene or two later, you have to be back as that creature. So that's hysterical.
There's a puppet festival in Montreal. Have you ever been to Castellier?
I have not, and I see friends who go every year, and would love to get up for that at some point. Did that happen this year?
Young puppeteers or new puppeteers listening to this, you have to go to the Castellier Festival in Montreal. You have to go.
Absolutely. Did that manage to happen this year? Or did it get canceled, unfortunately?
Oh, yeah. I think it happened right before quarantine hit. I think it happened like early March. I didn't get to go. I wanted to. And the UNIMA, if any young puppeteers listening, you have to become a member of UNIMA, Union de International Puppeteers.
Marionette.
Union de la Marionnette, blah, blah, blah. But UNIMA has, I don't know if it's just Canadian or if it's all over the place, but UNIMA has a lottery where you can apply to get a free pass to Castellier. All you have to do is volunteer to help serve food at the pancake breakfast or something. So there's a couple of people who get a free pass to go every year, and it's such gorgeous live puppetry. Quebec has some really amazing theatrical puppet companies, you gotta go. And there's an off festival too, if people want to go and perform, if like you have a new piece you're working on or you want to showcase something. There's the OUF Castellier, like OUF, like the off festival. Oh, and you can go and perform your half-baked whatever it is, or
I see it happen every year, and it's definitely on my list of a puppet event to be able to make it to. But but that brings us back to, so you do that first show where you were I'm sorry, what was the name of the character? Gertie the Gopher. So how'd you get from Gertie to Heart? Or I should say Gertie to the Wool Festival.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I create and tour live theater shows with my company SNAFU. So while I was puppeteering Gertie, I was also creating SNAFU shows and touring through Canada to different festivals and theaters, and then so I've been creating work for the stage since we founded SNAFU in 2006, and we've been creating and producing and touring shows, and some of them have puppetry in them, some of them are more like physical comedy. I have and I guess it's at one point I moved to Toronto for about 6 or 7 years, and met a bunch of the Toronto puppeteers, specifically my friend Mike Peterson, who's absolutely amazing puppeteer, and he's kind of hooked me into some of the projects I worked in there with Princess Sparkly Butt and Miss Persona, and then I auditioned for that sheep touring company, Corpus Theater. They have such cool surreal physical comedy. And so I did one show with them where I played this kind of like Marie Antoinette type character, and I got to work in their sheep show. Their sheep show is toured all over the world. Like they've been touring it for I think 15 years, and it's been everywhere. I just got to tour with them a couple different times, but yeah. So I guess that's kind of been a part of my journey. I have, since I graduated university, I've just been doing this the whole time. I don't have very, very lucky. I don't that this fills all my time. I don't have another job. I'm either making shows with my theater company, or puppeteering on TV, or working out at the prison doing prison theater shows, or teaching workshops, or like being an artist in residence in schools and stuff. I was actually just back in an elementary school as an artist in residence, the same school I was when I got the phone call that I got the job on Helpsters. It was so cute. And so I was like hiding in their staff room on my lunch break. I got the call from Sesame Workshop that they wanted to hire me for the show after months of waiting, right? Because, you audition and you wait and you wait. Mm-hmm. And then so I was in the staff room, and I hid behind the photocopier to kind of call my partner and tell him the good news, crying. And then I had to go and right away after that and teach puppetry to these grade 3 kids. And I told them at the end, I was like, just so you know, I just got a phone call and I'm going to go work for Sesame Street. And all the kids' jaws just dropped. Like, what? You're in our school and you're going to go there? Like, that was kind of cool. Yeah. Oh, I should tell you though about the prison theater.
I was just going to ask about that. Yeah, please tell us.
Yeah,
more.
there's prison arts groups all over the world, right? There's one in Victoria, BC. There's a prison here, and they've miraculously survived like all different governments and all different like conservative governments we had recently and everything, and all cutbacks and everything. And so the prisoners have been running their own theater company inside the prison since 1981. Every fall, they work with outside artists from the community who work with the guys to help direct or co-write or whatever, and they stage a show with all the prisoners as the actors, and they perform for the public. So the public audiences, hundreds of people, come, they drive through the woods to this prison in the middle of nowhere, and they go through prison security, and they come into the prison gym, and they watch the play performed by the prisoners. And then afterwards we do a Q&A where the audience gets to ask the guys questions about what it was like performing and what it was like making their own show. And so I've been very fortunate to get to work with that company for the last off and on since like 2007, 2008.
Wow, that's so cool. Is there many opportunities to integrate some puppetry into that as well, or is it pretty traditional theater stuff?
Yeah, 2010, I did an object puppetry show with them. Well, it was a combo of things, but let's see. I don't have any good pictures from that. It was called Chalk, and basically the whole show started. We was theater in the round, so we had audience on all 4 sides of the gymnasium. It's like their hockey gym, right? And we convert it into a theater. We hang theatrical lights and put a dance Marley floor, and we the show started. The 6 performers come on stage, and they're all dressed in white, and they're all painted white, their faces and their hands and everything. And they're sitting there like these children who have been told to sit still. And these, from all 4 corners of the 4 entrances, these big hardcover books start flying in to the center of the stage, because there's these other guys, these like stage crew prisoners who are hiding in the corners, hucking these hardcover books into the center of the stage. And so they all start flying in, and this mountain of hardcover books grows in the center of the stage. And then finally they all stop, and the rest of the show unfolds, and they start puppeteering these books. They tear pages out of them and crumple them into balls and have snowball fights, and they like build them into towers, and they animate the books. And then we did that was that show. Had a little bits of object puppetry in it, and then we did a full-on puppet show in 2013 with Peter Bockwell from the Old Trout Puppet Workshop. I don't know if you guys know the Old Trouts. They have you should check out their videos. They have a show called Famous Puppet Death Scenes. They're from Calgary.
Okay.
They've toured that one all over the world. They have a newer show called Ignorance, which is like puppets committing suicide. It's very sad. Ignorance is it's a puppet documentary about cavemen, but it's a live theatrical show.
Is it a comedy?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Sorry,
Oh, cool.
I'm getting them all mixed up.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to include them in the show notes for people to find them out and learn.
Let me know if I'm talking too fast. I'm a bit of a motor mouth sometimes.
No. This is.
But
That's okay.
This is
great.
Full puppet show at the prison in 2013, and so we came in there like, what do you guys want to make? This year we're doing a puppet show. What do you want it to be about? And we had this massive build list. Like we wrote all these fables, and we were building like, I think we had to build like 50 puppets, mostly like carved with wood and paper mache and all these like, you can see there's a poster behind me of some of the ostrich birds that the guys built. It's a prison puppet project. Mm-hmm. And it was a big, wild, awesome show. We had a prisoner band that created an original soundtrack that they played for the whole show. And we had we had to build these giant ostrich puppets. And we had, the best part of that show. So it's all fables, all kind of wordless puppet fables animated with puppetry, like 10 or so different fables. And then the last story, one of the guys had written, I'd asked them to write their origin story if it was kind of magical realism, or if it was a little bit fantastical, right? Like Spider-Man's origin story is he's bitten by a radioactive spider and he's an orphan and he gets magical powers and, zing, 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 he's saving the world, right? So this guy wrote this origin story about a boy, a young seal that got adopted by a human woman, and she raised the seal to be in the human world, but he never fit in. He was always kind of like wrinkly and floppy like a seal. And then at the end of his life, he went back to the ocean and swam. Like the last moment of the story is he swims away, and he would swim through the audience over their heads down the aisle. And the very last moment of the whole show, it's like an hour and a half long, beautiful, heartfelt, and all the audience is like, watching this beautiful moment where this man is kind of swimming away to his death, this beautiful seal puppet swimming away to his death through the audience. And one of the guys was like, I know what this needs. And so he's like, I'm going to build it. He built this 12-foot tall shark fin, like an orca seal fin. And then he would wear it. Mm-hmm. And as the last moment of the play went and the seal was swimming through the ocean to his peaceful end of life, then the band would play and this other guy would come through the audience wearing this 12-foot high shark fin, just swoop around and follow the seal man off. It was great.
Yeah. But what a great outlet for them to be able to have. I've done work before with patients in hospitals, and obviously very different situations, but to be able to channel the frustration and the grief and whatever other feelings you're having in those moments, to then be able to turn that it's that alchemy of turning those hardships into something that everyone could actually partake in and understand and enjoy as an audience is really special.
And it's wild for the audience too. Like the audience tends to come away saying, having this new perspective on incarcerated people and this whole thing of like, they're just people just like us, and everybody is,
right,
3 bad life circumstances or 3 bad choices away from being in jail or on the street. Like it doesn't matter if you could be the most successful businessman in the world. And and there's like the sense of humor. Like, there's also there's so many great artists that I get to work with in the prison who have these amazing talents. Sometimes they're hidden talents and they don't want to, they're shy to share them with you. And sometimes they're just like, here I am and I can rap. I'm a spoken word artist. What do you want? What do you want me to write? And I did a puppetry workshop out there quite recently, and right before quarantine kind of, and I do this exercise where we make object puppets just out of scarves or whatever we have lying around, and then they make creatures out of tying knots in the scarves and stuff, and then those creatures have personalities, and then I want to do a little kind of mini performance at the end that's not super performative. So I narrate that we're going to have a puppet petting zoo, and all these creatures are in the petting zoo, and half of us will get to visit the petting zoo, like as if we're, children on a field trip, and pet the puppets and meet them and feed them and stuff. And the other half of the class animates the puppets, and then we switch. So I'm like, here we go, we're gonna have a puppet petting zoo. And the guys are like, petting zoo, okay, great. And they're so inventive. Like, they ran to the fridge that's in the prison workshop room, and they like opened this fridge and pulled out the shelves from the fridge that are those grated bars, those like white bars. And then they pulled out all the shelves from the fridge, like, we're gonna build a petting zoo. I'm like, what? And they're like, we're building a petting zoo. And they set up all the fridge shelves to make a cage for the puppets. And then these little pathetic puppets started reaching through the bars of the cage towards the children who were going to pet them. And they looked so sad and pathetic. And it was so funny. It's like, it was, and just, of course, like, first the creativity that they have, where it's like anything in the room is going to become a puppet. Here we go, let's build it, right? That ingenuity and that creativity. And then second of all, that I say petting zoo and they hear cage, jail. These puppets are in jail, right? They built a jail for the puppets. So funny. Yeah. But
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's we'll see what we get to do this year.
Yeah, I just like that whole idea though of doing that kind of work there, because I feel like so many people see that people in that type of situation as being more of a punishment rather than it really being to rehabilitate people, and trying to turn it into something positive, I guess, rather than making people a lot of people get this feeling that people come out of prison worse than what they went in which case it's counterproductive to kind of the whole point.
Because that does happen.
Yeah.
That happens so often. Of course. Right? Yeah. They say like, if you have any innocence going into prison, you won't have any coming out.
That's right? Yeah.
It's like, but it doesn't have to be like that.
And it shouldn't be that way. That's not.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the point of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an amazing podcast about life in California prisons called Ear Hustle. And it's made by incarcerated people. It's hilarious. It's so good. It's called Ear Hustle. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys should check it out.
Check that out. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Ear hustle is like prison lingo for
Interesting.
listening out for gossip.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Ear hustle. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be remiss before we wrap up here. I know when you and I were talking before in preparing for this, you mentioned wanting to talk about the Merkin Sisters. Can you tell us about that project?
Yeah.
I've seen productions images of it, and it's wild. So
tell
us about it.
Let's see. A couple years ago, I was touring the Canadian festival circuit. I've been touring it for quite a few years, and another one of the touring artists is this amazing storyteller, dancer, comedian named Stephanie Morin-Robert. And she and I kind of looked at each other and were like, I like what you're doing. I like what you're doing. Let's make a show together. And so who knew that we were going to create the wildest, one of the wildest things I've ever got to be a part of. We like boot camped together and made this show in like 2 weeks from start to finish, from nothing to performance. And then we toured it for two years in a row. Like, oh God, we probably performed it like 80 different times. But it's these two sisters. The costumes in at least part of the show, we've built these hair suits. So they're like kind of like a full body puppet, kind of like a glamorous Cousin It, but they're these curly red wigs that cover us from head to like mid thigh. And I built them out of like a dozen curly wigs, just all stitched together. They're a little bit like Nick Cave's sound suits, if you've ever seen those. He's we just like thrash dance in these big curly red wigs. We combine them together to become one giant lady who it's like we have we do the tiny puppets where you have your face with a little puppet body, and they do river dance together.
Oh yeah, a little humanette thing. Oh gosh,
this
that's
very
great.
serious river dance duet. Which is perfect because, if you've got one puppeteer, you can either animate the feet or you can animate the hands. So what's the dance style that has no hands in it? River dance, right? Yeah. So we're working on our second Merkin Sisters show now, and that's all kind of percolating and brewing. But it's you should check it out.
Yeah, definitely keep us posted on that. We can make sure we share it out to all of our venues once it comes out.
Yeah, that'd be great. I love what you guys do. This is such a special thing, such a specialty thing, and such a special thing. You bring in puppeteers for these long form conversations.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you saying that, and we're always kind of amazed that there are people who want to come and talk with us for this amount of time, because I think it's really helpful to learn and to hear what other people are doing. So we appreciate your generosity of time and coming and talking with us, and that you were a listener before any of this is crazy too.
Yeah. Well, of course, I saw that and I was like, this is what I must listen to. And
it's always great. Like last year at the O'Neill was my first O'Neill since this had come out, and hearing like not only friends of ours who were able to tell us like, oh my gosh, we really like the show, but like I met you and you mentioned that you'd heard it, and there were some other people who were there who like had only heard of the O'Neill because of our show, which was really neat. And it's like, oh my gosh, like it was really cool. So it's nice to know that we're helping to if not build the community, at least have something that connects us all.
That makes me think of I think about like the young listeners. I like to imagine that there's young aspiring puppeteers listening to this right now, and that there's like little nuggets of information that are maybe useful. I don't know. At least hopefully the embarrassing stories are useful too. There's another puppet intensive in Banff in Canada that is also, I've never taken the O'Neill. I imagine it must be incredible. The Banff Puppet Intensive is really cool. It's all very collaborative. So you create a collaborative, non-hierarchical structure of creating a piece. So if you're not up for that, don't go, because you do have to, compromise and collaborate with a team of humans. But it's a combo of performance and design and construction. And it's like, I think 2 weeks, 14 days, something like that, in this gorgeous Banff National Arts Center in Banff, Alberta, in the middle of the mountains, these really dramatic mountains. And it's also a really fun party. Depending on the year that you go, it's usually like January, just after New Year's. And Pete Balkwell, who I co-directed the Prison Puppet Project with, he leads it. Him and Juanita Dawn, who's this amazing puppet builder. You should.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing. Yes, I know her through the O'Neill as well. Yeah. Gosh, she's a lovely person.
The Banff Puppet Intensive, if anybody wants to experience like puppetry immersion, it is you wake up at 9 a.m. You do kind of like full body warm-ups. You do Suzuki work applied to puppetry. So it's this like really rigorous physical theater training. And Pete's kind of customed his own version of this training. He called it Pete Zuki. He'd probably hate me calling it that, but it's, he borrows from all of his theater training and customizes it to performing puppetry. So it's a lot about channeling your key energy into the puppet to make it come alive. And then also you do like larval mask work where you have these giant, amazing sculpted larval masks, and he'll do these absurd exercises with you that are kind of spiritual and kind of trippy and really fun, where he'll play like the soundtrack to the Peanuts song, from Charlie Brown, and you'll be all marching with these giant larval masks on in this perfect formation, practicing these different theater techniques, and then in the evening you have free time in the puppet workshop to build whatever you want. And Juanita's there, and they have all these materials, and you just have like this beautiful kind of busy beehive puppet shop where everybody's making whatever they want. And at the end, you've all created a piece that you perform, like a 10-minute piece that you perform in one of the Banff's theaters. And the Banff Center has the most amazing buffet of the entire world. So you have to be careful because they include breakfast. They have like dessert for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah. It's like so dangerous.
Oh my gosh. That's the opposite of the O'Neill.
But it's
not to
made
speak
with
out of
love.
school. But it is made with love.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. We'll definitely include all of this information in the show notes, and absolutely encourage people to learn more, and find for admin me too, find out more about it. But so this is a good place to kind of end what we'll call part 1, because we'd love to have you back on and talk more. But you shared some great ones already, but do you have a good puppeteer story that you want to leave us with?
Oh God. Okay, I didn't tell you about. Okay. Let's just say I was playing a walk around puppet on this really amazing show. I won't tell you which show. And I was, fairly new to the team and new to the show. And I had to do this scene where I was outside running through a park. And first of all, I think at one point there were some busy street, and like some bunch of dogs came by and were like, just freaked out by my walk around monster. I was like, "Hello, dogs! Please do not eat me." And then so we're doing this scene. They've got the camera on a rolling cart, like a dolly, and they've got a man pulling the rolling cart so that they can do a shot where I'm running towards the cart and the cart is moving backwards as I run towards it, right? And the poor human being has to pull this giant, heavy rolling cart. But so we do the first shot, and then we're like, oh, well, there's not a good spot for the director to sit to watch the monitor while we're shooting. Oh, I don't know. We'll just put the director on the cart with the cameraman so he can watch the whole way along. So the director's sitting in the very front of the cart. Naturally. Right behind him is the camera, and then the cameraman, he's watching on the monitor, and they say, yeah, we need to do. It's not quite working, Ingrid. Can you run faster? I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I can run faster. I'm like, yeah. Can you do one now where you run faster? I'm like, well, I can run faster, but you have to pull the cart faster. They're like, oh yeah, we will. I'm like, okay. They're like, yeah, we will. I'm like, well, I'm gonna run faster. Like, yeah, okay, sure. So then they're like, action, and I just book it, right? I'm like, Superman running down. And the guy who's pulling the cart doesn't pull it very much faster. I'm like, what is faster, right? That's not a quantitative amount. So I just book it towards them, and they're pulling the cart away, and somebody yells, stop! And I stop right at the edge of the cart, and I just topple over and land gracefully in the full walk around puppet in the director's lap. I was just like, right in his lap. It was like, and he was fine, and I was fine, and he was very graceful about it and gracious about it. And it was just like, so luckily I don't really get embarrassed, because it would have been just so embarrassing.
And they're like, on take 3, split the difference.
Yeah. I remember going home that day, and it was like, it's just like, I don't know, I'm so unfazed, like I don't get embarrassed. And I was going home that day, I was like, even though I fell on the director, I still think I did really good today. Like, I think today was a really great day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. That's,
I'm sure there's lots of
other
other terrible stories, stupid things.
Well, if people want to follow your
awesome,
work and future projects, and for when things come out, what's the best way for them to follow you?
We're on Instagram at SNAFU Dance, SNAFU DANCE, and we have a mailing list, snafudance.com. They can join our email list. Yeah, I'm doing a couple of live streams coming up, actually. I'm going to be live streaming this brand new surreal puppet piece called Epidermis Circus, and it's going to be on SNAFU's Facebook page, SNAFU Dance Theatre on Facebook. It's already up there. You can go watch. And there's going to be another one through Impulse Theatre, which is going to be on Saturday, May 23rd. Coming up this Saturday,
and
May 23rd.
And then your website as well?
SNAFUdance.com. Yeah, same as our Instagram handle, SNAFU Dance.
Oh, I was thinking of
my personal website. Yeah, people can look at that, but I don't really have a personal newsletter or anything. But yeah, my personal website is ingi.ca, ingi.ca. You can watch my puppet demo. I have my voice demos on there. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Ingrid Hansen, it has been so good to get to know you and share this time with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Puppeteers.
Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. Wonderful. Have a nice day. Bye.